Bets Makes, and today we're going to be making an advent calendar. Now you don't have to stuff this calendar as we're going to have little goodies on the inside, but as you can see on the screen and right here, this is what this advent calendar is going to look like. It is fairly simple to create. You will need a maker with a perf tool in order to make the doors work, unless you want to do the perforation by hand. We'll also provide you with the template from betsmakes.com library, where you can download the template for this project as well. And one last thing before we get started, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Okay, let's get crafting. Hi, this is the advent calendar that we're going to be working on, and we're going to need 3 parts. We're going to need the one with the numbers and the perf and the score lines. We need another file with the little stickers that go in behind. You can use these or your own stickers. And of course the backing sheet with the squares where the stickers are to be placed. And all 3 of these are important. So right now I'm just going to save this one and we can come back to it. And I'm going to start a new project so you can go through the whole process with me on what we have to do with these 3 files. So let's go new, and we're going to upload. Now we're going to have a couple of files that you're going to have to upload, and one of them has the numbers on it. It's called Advent Calendar for printed top with numbers. You're going to need the Advent Calendar Cricut bottom, it's called. These are the stickers. And then the last one we need is this one, and it's for the printed bottom. So those 3 files will be made available to you at betsmakes.com library, and you should be able to upload those and go ahead and insert those images. Take a second for them to come through. Now I'm going to just move them apart because we have to do a few things to each one of them. Now the first one I want to tackle are these little stickers. Obviously if I put this in print and cut it, it's going to be way too small. So what I'm going to do is unlock this, and I'm going to make them the size that we need to fit into these little boxes. So as long as we're pretty close and they're about the right size, everything looks pretty good there, so I'm going to lock it down. And then I'm just going to stick that aside because we don't need it anymore now. All we'll do is print and cut that a little later. Okay, let's take a look at the bottom part here. Let's move it out of the way a little bit. Now if you take a look at the side here, it has cut, 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 cut. Well, the only thing we want to cut is the outside frame. We want all these little boxes inside to simply be drawn onto the paper so that it gives us an easy way to do the markup. Okay, so let's click on Ungroup. And the first thing we want to do is we will click on the outside edge here. Here it is, it's cut, that's perfect. Turn that one off. Make it easier on myself. Select all the boxes. I want to then move these into just draw. So I'm going to come up to the line type and click draw. And then I'm going to make this other one visible again. There it is. Let it click up here, make it visible. And what I want to do now is I just want to group all these back together. And I'm going to attach them. That's so that the drawing will actually happen inside the boxes. Now, please note that if I move these boxes right over top of the other ones, this is an exact match, and that's what we want, because when we make these perfs and folds, they have to match what we're doing over here on this side. So let me just move over a little bit. Now we're going to work on the outside. Everything is set to cut, which is fine, except we don't want to cut some things. So if I click on the group here, that's all the numbers. you scroll down, you'll see that it's picked all the numbers. We want those numbers to be drawn. So let's go to the line type. We're going to move that to draw. And I'm going to see if I can change, I'm going to change it to green just so we can see it. Green's terrible, so let's go red. Now I can see those on there, so we've got those all as a draw. Now we have other groups inside here, so if I click on this group, it's giving me all these little cut lines which are up and down. Well, we don't want everything here as a cut line. We want to move them to score and to perf. So I can't select them all that way. I'm just going to come through down here and just use my shift click and make sure I'm catching each one of the ones that I want. Unfortunately, there's about 25 of them because of the advent calendar. So we'll just grab all of these. And now we don't want those as cuts. We want those as score lines. So I'm going to move over here again and click on score. So now you see the score lines on the edge. Next, we want to look at the other three pieces here. So that's what this looks like. It shows as a cut line. Once again, we want to collect all of those together, and we are not going to cut these. We're going to set them to perf. And perf is perfect for an advent calendar because then they have to rip apart the little doors in order to do that. And I've got those all selected, coming up to where it says cut again, and this time I'm going to set it to perf. Now the outside edge is going to be a cut, so I'm not going to worry about that, but I am going to group these all together, make sure we're all grouped. It says ungroup, but I have to attach them. There we go, we are attached. I'm going to save this document. So this is going to be Advent Calendar. And I'm going to put final. Just so that I know it's different from my other project. I'm just going to save that. Now that it's saved, we're going to go ahead, choose your machine if you already haven't done so, and we're going to click on Make It. It's going to sort our project into mats by color. Now the first one is set up as a print and cut. It will actually cut the outside edges of a lot of these, as you will see when we go to put this together. So just go ahead and send it to your printer, and then you bring it back and put your blade in, and it will cut out the small pieces. Okay, so for the second one, you can see the numbers in red because we'd put that, but if you look very closely, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this. I'm going to put it on a mat of another color just because we can't see it that well here. So I'm going to choose a new mat, and I'm going to make it light green, and then I can see everything. There we go. Now, one thing you have to be aware of, since we are going to be printing the paper we're using for this, if we left it 1/4 by 1/4, we'd be in trouble with where it cut. And we are going to move it to approximately the 1/2 by 1/2 mark in this corner. That allows for the bleed of your printer so that it will cut and match the other piece when you go to put them together. So that's a really important part. Make sure that you move this so it's at about 1/2 by 1/2, because it leaves a bit at the edge, and then I know it's 1/2 inch inside. You just have to be approximate with it, but you want it close enough that you're printing in the right spot. Okay, that's this one. Let's take a look at mat number 3. Once again, it's a dark color, so it's hard to see. I'm going to move it to another mat. And I'll choose a different color for this mat, so let's make it yellow so that we can see it. And there we go. We don't have to worry about the placement of this one per se, just because it's going to cut out on whatever cardstock you want. It is the underneath and the bottom, and these are the little squares you want drawn on so you can place your stickers or little items on top here for when the doors are open. Now this one looks good. We're set up with this one. We did move it. It's score, it's draw, that's the numbers it's going to draw, the basic perf and a cut, and of course the top one is a print and cut. These two mats will disappear once we go to hit the make it part of it. So let's just move over, let's continue. Okay, we're going to now print and cut this. Next, we're going to choose the medium cardstock, and it's telling us to load. It says red pen, but that was just because we'd colored that. But you can choose a pen of your own color. Because it's a dark background, gold or silver or yellow would work perfectly. And then of course you want to load the single scoring wheel. Now you'll notice here it always tells us the wheel number. This is wheel 01. And then once it's finished its work, it will tell you to swap this one out for the perf tool. So we're ready to cut, and we'll be right back, and I'll show you how to put this together. Ready to start putting things together for our advent calendar. And actually it's quite simple. We've already print, cut, and perfed this top part. We printed this with the little squares all around it. Actually, we drew it in there and cut the piece of paper to match. I also print and cut the little stickers that came with the project and glued them into place. I just used simple craft glue. I didn't have to do anything else. I also used my Cricut pen, because when these letters or numbers are drawn, you don't get it filled in all the way. So I just simply came through and then filled in more just to make it stand out more. Now gold does stand out, but you might want to think about using a white or a yellow. That would work out really well. Now when I placed this on the paper, I placed it down, and I still see that I got my cut a little bit off at the top and the bottom, but that's not going to make much difference because we're going to trim it up. Simply just going to pull the outside edge off. Sticky mat. So I still have some of the trim on this, but you can make adjustments. I would suggest doing a couple of trial cuts before you finally come up with the final piece. Perfect cuts. Just get rid of my trash here. Now I can trim this a little bit off at the other edge, but the first thing I want to do is I want to peel this off the mat, and the easiest way is to peel the mat off the top. Now this is a pretty sticky one. There we go. Now that stops it from curling up too badly, and then I can put my mat away. Now I do have some issues here, so I'm just going to bring out my little paper trimmer. I have this little trimmer from Cricut. Keep the little edge on it, and I'm just going to trim it down so I get rid of that extra little white piece. Oh, it moved a little bit on me, so let me just put it back down again. Okay, there we go. Hold it down. There we go. That gets rid of the little extra white piece, and the rest of it looks too bad. I do have a couple of little edges I want to trim up here, just to get rid of those. And the rest of it looks really darn good. Just put this back away. A little divot over top of the blade, and I'll just move this out of the way here. So as I mentioned before, we do have these perfs in place, and they should match up perfectly. Now, I know it's going to be pretty tough to see whether they match up or not. And we're just going to put it in place. So say number 3 here, if it looks a little high, we're going to bring this right down to the bottom because our trim was off slightly. There we go. Now door 14, if that opens up, it's going to be really close. So what I tend to do is I'll fold this a little bit and then get it to match, so I can see it a little better here, as close as possible to where that door is. Now that looks really good right there. I'm going to secure it in place just because I want to be able to hold it in place while I check the other edges. I'm just going to use a clip that I have in the drawer. Just hold it in place, and you want to make sure that the edges of your doors are going to match up, and that looks pretty darn good. Okay, so all we need to do now is take our glue, and we're going to glue this in place, and then we're going to trim the edges so we don't see any of the backing. Okay, so we'll start by just doing a little bit in the corners. This is a craft glue. But there we are. Now I'm going to take my paper trimmer back again, and I'm going to trim the edges. And there we go. We have finished with our advent calendar. This is so cute. Now you may want to let it dry for a little while, and I'm not going to open the doors because I want to save mine for the start of the month. I may think about darkening these a little bit, and you can barely see the doors, but that's fine because once you hit the number, then you'll be able to open the perfs in those places. Just make sure you don't glue down the doors, but you're only gluing down the edges. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun, and what a really beautiful little project.
Well, I hope you really enjoyed making this advent calendar. It was such a joy to do. It's basically 2 pieces of paper, and you use some print, cut, perf, and score with a little bit of glue, a paper cutter, and some scissors, and the project's done. It doesn't take too long at all. You can mail these to anybody you want because you're not putting something inside that's going to move around. This is on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, so it was really easy to put together. So I hope you really enjoyed this. And just before you go, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and happy crafting!